have Laura Ellison. Did I say that?
You did.
David Page. We can clap! Ernest Shaw Jr. Susan Waters-Eller. Emma Wolford. So I want to say that we wouldn't be here without the wonderful partnership that we have with the William G. Baker Jr. Memorial Fund and the Greater Baltimore Cultural Alliance. Let's give them a clap.
And so I was a little bit of a rebel and kept hiking. And I hiked almost every day for a year. I would hike 2.5 miles out to a peninsula, and I would sit at that peninsula and I would meditate. And then there was I think it was a beech tree, and I would hug that too and give gratitude. And then on my way out, the 2.5 mile hike out, I would say positive affirmations for half of it, and then I would give gratitude for the other half of it. And something happened in that year of doing that. I started to really love myself. I think that we live in a culture where we're not really taught how to love ourselves or even told that it's okay to love ourselves. And so this change just happened slowly over time. Also, I had no idea that there were so many mushrooms. And I had, so when I would walk sometimes, I considered it a spiritual practice. And especially on the way in, I would tend to let my mind wander. And occasionally I would be like pulled off the trail for whatever reason. Something would catch my eye. And that is mostly when I would discover like these new different mushrooms. So I kind of feel like led by spirit when in those situations. So I started photographing them, and then I started posting them on Instagram too. It was a way to connect with people. A lot of people would message and say, I love these photos, thank you so much. And just really being out in nature became this really important spiritual practice for me. So when I was told about this exhibition and Brittany came and did a studio visit, I showed her all the stuff that I had that I could show, but then I was like, now I want to take you downstairs and I'm going to try to convince you to let me make something new. And thank goodness she was on board for that. Most of you may know that I typically do large-scale site-specific installation, and so the other stuff that I have at home is more like the mandalas or things that I make more to try to make money to keep my practice going. Like, I can't remember, Alzna, I think said, like a lot of my work is not money-oriented. I can't sell this. Nobody's going to buy it. And the majority of my projects are like that too.
Okay. Talk to me about your work as an artist.
Well, so I am an interdisciplinary artist, so I work in a number of different mediums. I am, first and foremost, I am a writer, and everything springs from that. I'm also a filmmaker and immersive media director. I'm also a performer. I predominantly perform in my own work. My focus is predominantly on Black women and girls and others whose inner lives and joy and histories and background are underexplored in American media and public.
That's interesting. Tell me something that hasn't been explored in the Baltimore area that you have worked on.
Well, I mean, as an artist, I love to think that everything I'm doing is unique. But to be honest with you, I mean, I like to spend time in spaces in terms of my motivation of things that I think are not necessarily being done, and so I like to innovate in artistic spaces. The piece that's included here today for this show for the next few months is a new art form that I have developed called Sound Design Photo Narrations, or SDP narrations. I'm also coming out with a virtual reality experience wherein I am doing some things that I think are new and innovative in a new and innovative space. While I am so in my, it's a feature-length virtual reality experience. It's also a retrospective of my work. So you will be screening films in this three-dimensional, 360-degree space. You'll also be experiencing animated characterizations of some of my stories.
Let me ask you, what's a story on the black woman in Baltimore that you've done?
Well, I mean, the piece that's here today, Antoine and Me, is, the entire exhibition is a real celebration of Baltimore. I spoke about the pages from my grandmother's photo albums that are included in the display cases. She was born here in Baltimore in 1903 and lived here most of her life. My parents that you will see, they paid tribute to their early dating life in another one of the cases that occurred in Baltimore City, and it really paid homage to that time in the 1950s. That even though areas were segregated, like these, my parents they had the most glamorous dating lives that I know of. There's so much of that rich, Black Baltimore history that we don't always carry on in our knowledge of Baltimore. And I'm fortunate enough to have heard those stories about the jazz clubs and firsthand stories of their friend, the late Ethel Ennis. My father was started one of the first early Black law firms here in Baltimore in the 1950s, Howard, Wilford, and Leeds. So, and even my virtual reality experience. It pays homage to Baltimore because it's a great migration story.
Who is Antoine? And when you say Antoine and Me, who is Antoine?
Antoine is a fictionalized character. So I use much of my fiction is based in true life stories, because much of my work itself is memoir or true life stories of others. But that particular piece is a fictionalized character.
Have you tackled the squeegee kid?
In my artwork, no. And I was really interested in Ernest's presentation about his work in the one piece in the center, where he speaks about that. I mean, it touched my heart quite a bit. In fact, several of the artists, when I heard them speak tonight about the basis for their artwork, it really spoke to me very emotionally. And in the room that we're in right now with Susan's work, because there's one of my films that screens in my upcoming virtual reality experience. It's called Interrupted, Prologues to a Memoir. And I touch on, the whole thing is about the history of anti-Blackness in America. And I do touch on some of the subjects that Susan was discussing in the background of her work. And so that was really rich to hear that background. It's, sometimes there's something in the air with artists and we're speaking about similar things.
Okay. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.